This communication was prepared for educational purposes only and should not be construed as investment advice. All opinions or views reflect the judgment of the authors as of the broadcast date and are subject to change without notice. Julius Wealth Advisors, LLC, is a registered investment advisor. Our disclosure brochure, available at advisorinfo.sec.gov or through contacting us, provides further detail about our business, services, and fees.
Yay!
Welcome to the first ever Big Bo Show. That's show with a $sign. I'm your host, Big Bo, also known as Jason Blumstein, the CEO and founder of Julius Wealth Advisors. Can be reached at info@juliuswealth.com, 201-289-9181, and www.juliuswealthadvisors.com. Let me introduce this show to you. This show will be about three things. We'll eventually be adding people to the show as guests to talk about three core items: integrity, knowledge, and passion. But before I go into those three core items, let's give a brief explanation of who Big Bo is. Growing up, I was a two-sport athlete in South Florida, and when I was little, I was always a big kid. My dad ended up nicknaming me Bobo, and then I grew and grew, and that name eventually got old because when you're as big as I got up to, you can't really call a big guy Bobo. I got shortened to Bo. All my friends growing up only knew me as Bo through school, through sports, and I even got to a point where I had to write my name down on a Scantron test, and I forgot my real name for a second, which was Jason. In my professional life, people mainly know me as Jason, and that's why I want to introduce you how the name came about, since people in both phases of my life, growing up as a child and now my professional life, know me as two different names, but this show is mainly about my core values. And those three core values are integrity, knowledge, and passion. Let's talk about integrity for a second. Call me old school, but when you look someone in the eye and you tell them they will to do something, I will do it. I've been working in the financial services industry for the past 17 years. Have always been interested in this since the age of 10. And I was at a conference earlier, I guess at the end of last year in December, and they held up a presentation, and in that it showed the trust index across all various industries in America. And not surprisingly, the financial services industry ranked last for 10 years in a row. I would maybe say duh, because I've been working in this industry for so long. And what I tell people is that we're in the trust industry. When you're dealing with people and their money and their finances, that's how people are going to remember you. And that's my mission. I want to change that. I want to change the fact that this industry does not have a lot of trust and integrity within it. Second thing is knowledge. I've always been a person that likes to learn, constantly wants to learn, mainly like to learn about the things I'm passionate about, which is food, football, and finance, which we'll get to later in the show. I've always believed in the phrase that the second you think you know everything is the second you know nothing. And the final part is passion. Passion is extremely important in life. You have to be passionate about what you do. If you're not passionate about what you do, you're going to go through life and you're going to wake up 20, 30, 40 years later and you're going to look back and potentially feel empty about who you are and what you've done. And I've always lived by the thought that my grandmother passed down to me, is that there's only one thing in life that you can take, and that's your name. And if you don't have a good name, then people won't remember you very well when you pass. You can't take your money. You can't take your job titles. All you can do is take with you is your name. In this show, I'm going to dive into all three of my passions and also invite others to share their passions and what brings them unquestionable joy in this world. So as I touched on earlier, my first passion since the age of 10 has been finance, investing, and personal finance. If you go to my website, www.juliuswealthadvisors.com, you'll see the background of how I got into this industry from my grandfather, Julius, whom I named my firm after, when he bought me my first 5 shares of Goodyear Tire and 5 shares of Pepsi. I'm not going to go into that story now. I'll invite you to go onto my website, www.juliuswealthadvisors.com, and read the blog, The 10-Year-Old Investor. But the one thing that I've noticed throughout my life is that most people that I come across lack basic financial literacy. And this upsets me, right? And this is what motivates me and makes me want to start this firm, to try to pass on this knowledge of financial literacy to others. I was fortunate enough to learn this from my grandfather, the importance of this. And it's no wonder that most people do not have financial literacy. I always joke around with people in a serious manner, though, that the average education in America is through high school. I don't know about you, but when I was going through school, there was zero mandate on taking anything to do with money, personal finance, or anything like that in school. I had 1 year of an elective, 1/4 of an elective, and I ended up taking it because I was interested in it. There was about 20 other kids in that class, but besides me and those 20 other kids, no one got any knowledge on financial literacy throughout school. But for some reason, we're mandated to take things like social studies and history, which are important. But the last time someone came up to me and asked me to name the 50 state capitals of America after I took that test has been zero. Yet every single day we have to deal with money. There's not one day that goes by that you're not dealing with money, whether you're buying milk at the grocery store, opening up a bank account, investing, what have you. So I'm on a mission to change this and educate people on finance, personal finance, and get rid of this endemic where people essentially learn about personal finance by making mistakes. And I've seen this with very, very smart people, whether they be people in my own industry, doctors, lawyers, engineers, CEOs, entrepreneurs, athletes. We all are learning from our mistakes. And the worst thing someone could do is think they know everything. You have to give up what you don't know. This good example of this is when my wife asks me to do something around the house. I am the least handy person that you know. So what do? I research it, but ultimately I try to bring in someone that knows more than me to help me out to fix the problem. The best thing someone could do when it comes to finances and personal finance is just start. And what I mean by that is take that first step to start to get educated, to start putting money away, to reach out to someone that knows more than you, to help you out. There's seemingly this anxiety or this embarrassment when it comes to talking about money and talking about wealth in this country. But here's the facts. The facts are that people are struggling. The facts are that 40% of Americans can't afford a one-time unexpected expense. The facts are that the percentage of millionaires in this country hasn't changed on a real basis in over 20 years. So what are we going to do about it? Are we going to go ahead and continue to do the same things that we've done over and over and over again and expect different results? that is the definition of insanity, my friends. So we have to change that. And the best way that I help to explain this to people is power of time and the power of discipline. Now, when I meet people and they haven't really had anything saved up, they're living a rich life versus a wealthy life, which I'll probably get into at another show. They make good money, but they just spend pretty much every dollar they have, and they're on this perpetual hamster wheel. And they get into it, maybe they put $500 a month away or $1,000 a month or whatever they can do at the time. So after a year, if you're putting away $1,000, maybe you have $12,000 saved up, and you get a 10% return. So now you made $1,200. After a year, like, oh wow, like, okay, I made $1,200. I'm up to almost over $13,000. You give up. That's not the right thing to do, in my opinion, because creating wealth is like a snowball. Because if you have that same 10% return on a $12,000 portfolio, you're only earning $1,200, which might not seem like a lot of money. To some people it might, to some people it might not. But you fast forward and you do this for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Now your portfolio is at the $2 million due to the power of time and discipline and compound interest. And you make that same 10% return on a $2 million portfolio, the same percentage return. But now the amount of wealth you grew is $200,000. This is what I call the snowball effect. And the only way you get into that snowball effect is if you just start to begin with. So the best thing you can do is give up what you know and just start. Whether you hear this podcast today and you contemplate it, you put away your first $100, your first $1,000, whatever, I hope that in 10 years from now, when you go back and you listen to this podcast, you now have a large snowball and you can live the life and the wealthy life that you want to live. So let's go into my next passion. My next passion is football, and football is very similar to building wealth. In football, you got to put in the time to be a champion. You can't just show up on a Sunday or Saturday in college or Friday if you're in high school and show up and you think you're going to win the game. You have to put in the time day in and day out, and eventually you'll see the result. I saw this for myself. I ended up going to my local high school, put in some of the work, got noticed by a powerhouse private school, went there, played offensive line due to the thankfulness of a friend that turned me on to the school. Put in the work, and eventually my team won the state championship in high school, and eventually I got a full scholarship to play football in college. The same thing goes into building wealth. You have to put in the time. Today you might not see the result. Tomorrow night you might not see the result, but eventually you will see that result, and you will thank yourself. You'll thank your 5 previous year old self on the work and the sacrifice that you put in. Now, the thing that I'm a little bit perplexed with is how my favorite team, the Miami Dolphins, think about this. As many of you probably heard, they decided to let go a coach that I thought was good, that many people thought was good. If you look at the Twitter feeder of people of reactions, everyone is kind of shocked of this. And listen, no disrespect to Mr. Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, but he obviously knows a lot about developing real estate. But at this point, as a loyal Dolphin fan for almost 40 years, I'm starting to question if he knows much about developing a football team. Right? He points to Flores' 24-25 record as a coach, but he doesn't point out that his first year, the front office was purposely trying to tank to get a good draft pick. So if you actually look at the last 2 years when he had to get the pieces in place to turn the team around, he actually had a 19-14 record, almost making the playoffs twice. And I'll tell you, just being an athlete, playing on teams, having a coach, you don't have a team that starts off at 1-7 and then wins the last 8 of their 9 games, and the team doesn't respect their head coach. Now I've had 4 coaches under Ross, or since he's taken off as the owner of the team, or a new coach every 3 years. So in my opinion, I'm questioning, is he a real estate developer or a house flipper? Again, just like building wealth, a football team and a franchise, any team needs consistency. You need a cohesive plan. You need to stick to that plan and block out the noise. That's one of the things that I respect the most out of Tom Brady. A lot of people question, being a Dolphin fan, how can you like Tom Brady? It's the guy has a plan. He has a plan and he does what it takes to win. Whether it means throwing for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, or throwing for 100 and no touchdowns and letting his running game do the work. You can see this when how he was on the Patriots, in Tampa Bay. You can also see this consistency with other franchises, whether it be the Steelers, the Packers, the Seahawks. Consistency, discipline, having a plan, sticking to it, letting the plan unfold. And I just wish my Miami Dolphins would have this consistency so we can start to win a championship at some point in my life. But enough about the negativity on the NFL. Let's talk about the positives. The positives are we have the NFL playoffs coming up. There are the 2 number 1 seeds are the Packers and the Titans. There are many great storylines going into the playoffs this year. You have Aaron Rodgers seemingly versus the world with what's been going on with him this year. You have Mahomes, who most people wrote him off in the beginning of the year when they started off slow. I know firsthand. I had him and Travis Kelce on my fantasy football team, which was the worst season I've had in my history of playing fantasy football. You have Belichick. People were questioning, well, was it Belichick? Was it Brady? Well, you saw what Brady did last year. Belichick had a bad year last year. Now this is his first year back in the playoffs without Brady. So I'm sure Belichick's trying to show people what he can do. You also have Big Ben Roethlisberger, who, if you watch the game on Sunday night, the Raiders-Chargers game, would have been kind of crazy to see Big Ben end his career based off of a tie. I wasn't rooting for a tie. I thought it would be interesting if one took place. I'm glad to see Big Ben make it into the playoffs and see if he can ride out into the sunset. You have young quarterbacks on the scene: Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, and the baby Bengals. One of my favorite dark horses and teams that I've been keeping an eye on myself with what they've done, and Joe Burrow and what I like to call swagger in the way that he operates. And then you have Tom in Tampa Bay. Will he go back to back and win his 8th overall? So a lot of good storylines for the NFL playoffs. We'll see who wins. I'll go into who I think will win, and being a former offensive lineman, I may be biased on this, but if you look at football, and especially playoff football, they say the game is won in the trenches. And if you look at playoff football again, the teams that typically can run the ball and also stop the run are the teams that typically pull things off. And when I look at it, the team in the NFC that has stopped the ball, running the ball, is the Bucs. The Bucs are ranked third in the league in run defense. You obviously have Tom Brady, and it's very tough to go against Tom Brady with everything that he's accomplished in his life. That by far, in my opinion, the greatest of all time, also known as the GOAT, which is the nickname that these youngsters are given to people these days. So I'm not going to go against Tom again. Last year, I didn't think he was going to make it to the Super Bowl, never mind winning it. So I'm going to pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to come out of the NFC. Moving over to the AFC, there's only one other team in the playoffs. And this is a surprising stat to me because I never thought of this team as having a decent defense. There's only one other team left in the playoffs that has a better run defense than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that's the Tennessee Titans. Then if you also look at which team has the best running game left in the NFL playoffs, that is also the Tennessee Titans. And they're getting their workhorse running back in Derrick Henry just in time for the playoffs. Now, he might not be 100%, but they were able to run the ball without him. And even if you get a Derrick Henry at 80%, 70, 80%, it's still better than the vast majority of running backs in this league at 100%. So with the Tennessee Titans' ability to both run the ball and stop the run, I'm going to take the Titans to come out of the AFC. So we're looking at a Titans-Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl. Shameless plug here. First time ever in my life since they added a extra week to the NFL season that the Super Bowl falls on February 13th. It just so happens to be my 40th birthday. So please reach out and wish me a happy birthday on that date, and hopefully my picks of who went to the Super Bowl come to fruition. Now, who wins? Who wins in the Super Bowl? Again, very tough to go against Tom Brady. However, I will go against Tom Brady on here because I think they have, the Titans have the ability to get after Brady from a defensive front perspective, and also run the ball to take the ball out of Brady's hands and control the clock. You also have their head coach who actually used to play with Brady. So I'm sure he knows a lot about Brady on the other side of the ball, being a linebacker himself. And I think he'll pull it off and take down Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'll take the Tennessee Titans to win the Super Bowl. Again, my dark horse, though, however, is the Cincinnati Bengals. That's a really fun team to watch. Probably too young, too inexperienced to go all the way this year. The other ironic part about the Tennessee Titans winning it all is that their quarterback is a gentleman named Ryan Tannehill, which, bringing it back to my friend Mr. Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, I recall him trading him away in 2019. But I digress. So moving on to my third passion. My third passion is food. Being a pretty big guy growing up, and currently, I've always had an interest in food. I've always watched shows like the Food Network constantly, and got into smoking foods like briskets, chicken, things like that, thanks to my brother-in-law who bought me a smoker for my housewarming gift. So on this episode, I want to talk about a fun time we had in my neighborhood a couple weeks ago. We had the first ever town smoked brisket contest. 5 guys from my neighborhood who all have smokers. We all are our own little group chat talking about our different techniques and different ways of pellet versus wood chips versus coal. Definitely not a pellet guy. That's a whole nother conversation. So we had this contest the first weekend of the year. Five guys entered. Only one guy came away victorious. And I'm sad to say that that was not me. I do think that had a good effort. I think I got voted the best as the most traditional. I had people over my house beforehand to enjoy it. They all loved it and put a smile on their faces, which is really all that matters to me. And I think the true test in this social media driven world is someone one of my neighbors tuned me into someone that posted about buying a smoker and is that is getting older, and is that the last phase when you're getting older in life. And I tweeted out a picture of my brisket to him and the finished product, and I got back five likes of my brisket, and I'm not sure if anyone else that entered that contest would have gotten the same. So with that said, I think I might be at least in my mind the true winner of that contest. But it's all in good fun. We all had a good time and enjoyed ourselves, and looking forward to the next contest to bring people together about our passions and enjoying life, and enjoying friends, and enjoying family, because that's at the end of the day is like I stated, is what it's all about. So with all this said, I hope you enjoyed the first taping and episode of the Big Bo Show. I plan on putting this out once a month. Welcome feedback on it. Pros, cons, always open to constructive feedback on the show. You can reach me again at jason@juliuswealth.com or info@juliuswealth.com. Phone number 201-289-9181. Website www.juliuswealthadvisors.com. I thank everybody for tuning in. Enjoy your life. Enjoy your passions. Have integrity. Build your knowledge. Build your passions. And enhance the financial literacy of the people around you. All the best. Until next time.